Welcome, Agile friends. My name is Vasco, and I'm here hosting this session with, and I'm thrilled to say, our amazing speaker, Dave Snowden. Hey, Dave.
Hi
Welcome to the
there.
summit.
Good to meet you.
Likewise. I met Dave many years ago. I believe it was in Berlin, 2011, if I
Mhm.
remember correctly. I very quickly understood that there was something that he was talking about that was important for us. And I think the bio will explain. He's one of the three founders of DSDM, Dynamic Systems Design Methodology, which is one of the inputs to the Agile Manifesto. He's also the person behind the Cynefin framework, which had the Agile community so excited for several years, and one would argue still has. And he's also working with the application of natural sciences to social systems through the development of a range of methods, including the SenseMaker software suite. Now, we'll talk about what Agile got wrong and also what it got right with Dave in a second. Let me just tell you that there are some other talks at the Agile Online Summit that touch on the topic of complexity and complex systems. Don't miss those. For example, Dennis Stevens will have a session where he explores some anti-patterns of Agile transformation. So if you want to check that out and all of the other talks, you can go to the Agile Online Summit. But now it's time to focus on our guest for today, Dave Snowden. And Dave, before we dive into the complexities of Agile, can you share with us the origin story of the Cynefin framework?
So it goes back to the late 1990s. So at that time, I was strategy director of a company, and we were building an alliance of European software integration companies. Um, and I mean, the slogan was going to be sort of one method, many cultures. So I was going to create a method center for companies in Germany and France. And that was designed to hit the Accentures and the McKinseys of this world, which are, one culture, many methods. So that was a really good marketing slogan. I was looking forward to it. And then over one weekend, we got sold to IBM when we were launching the company. So everything changed, which was quite dramatic, to be honest. I mean, it was 48 hours from first contact to sale. And I was lucky on that. So I got a role which was do whatever you want as long as you upset people, which is something it was a job tailored for me. In fact, my bonus scheme one year was based on how many senior executives in IBM demanded I was writing that I was fired. Because what IBM was trying to do then was to do a transformation from being a hardware manufacturer to being a service industry. So data sciences was a shell around which they built IBM Global Services. Yeah, because we understood that. So either way, I got put into this, do whatever you're interested in, because IBM labeled me as a creative. That was a good label in IBM. Yeah. And I got involved then in knowledge management. My background, my thesis was in decision support. So that was becoming topical then after the Narcos book in 95. And what was also happening then is I met Max Basso, who tragically died a few years back, who was my mentor for years. We talked most weeks. And most people in Agile should really read his book, Knowledge Assets. It's probably the classic. It won prizes. It's a defining book. And Max and I were at Warwick University, and I took two of his concepts, abstraction and codification, and started to develop them into an ontological model. So Max's model is epistemological, how we know things. I said, well, actually, underneath this is how things are. So that was the origin of it. And it started off, to be honest, as a 2x2 matrix. It's published like that in the early days. And then it develops the fifth domain, which was a hand drawing at a university in Aston. And I wish I kept a picture of the board that day. But it suddenly came to me it was more than that, and the central domain was critical. And then that started in a series of publications. In fact, Max and I, just before he died, had just finished a paper, which I've got to work on sometime, which brought the two frameworks, said how they developed and what was in common between them. So that was the origin. It started in the whole concept of how do you know things, which was Basso. And I said, well, how you know things depends on the nature of what can be known, which is Cynefin. Right. So that was the flip.
And one of the things that really struck me, so I started early 90s. I started listening or hearing and then studying chaos theory, and I heard a lot about all of these different aspects, this new branch of science that tried to account for a lot of events that were not explained by the already existing branches of science. And when I came across Cynefin and your work, I find